Hey guys, I thought I'd take a second and just kind of talk about this emerging health trend that a few of you are involved in, and I would imagine a lot of you have heard of, and it's this ketogenic movement and intermittent fasting. But the first one, and what I'm going to focus on today, and I'm going to do another video on some intermittent fasting information. But ketosis, what it is your body's deprived of glucose, so the body starts to burn off its fat stores, and it turns fat into ketone bodies in the blood, and these ketone bodies are burnt in place of glucose. Now, the kicker with something like this is that it sounds really good. Wow, I burn fat, but there's some drawbacks to that, as I've discovered, and through research and actual practice on my own behalf, is it's not necessarily beneficial or optimal for people who are athletically inclined. See, the whole point of going into ketosis, and this is something that it's not discussed on a regular basis, because a lot of the people that are putting out ketogenic are more diet related. It's for fat loss and lean body percentages. But in the evolution of the human body, we would dip into ketosis no different than a bear would. It's a time when we're more sedentary. See, body fat oxidizes at a very low temperature, not like carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are like gasoline. You pour gasoline on a fire, boom, it burns, and then it's gone. Ketone bodies and fat burn at a very low oxidative rate. That's why when you're doing cardiovascular exercise, if you're in fat burning zone, your heart rate's way down versus cardio zone where your heart rate's up higher. In cardiovascularly, you're burning a lot more glucose. Now, the trick is if you exercise for a long period of time at an elevated heart rate, you eventually exhaust your glucose, and then the muscle starts to be converted into glucose, all right? And this is kind of the issue with ketone bodies, is when you become really active and you're in a ketogenic state, then unfortunately the muscles don't use ketone bodies very well at all, right? So what can happen is the body utilizes, remember we talked about timing of protein and all this other stuff, but the protein that you're actually consuming in a ketogenic diet, if you're physically active and exerting and breaking that ATP bond and contracting your muscles, is you could actually be burning body muscle and organ tissue as a source of glucose to accommodate the exercise, which really seems counterproductive, because we all know now when you lose muscle mass, you end up losing your health, because muscle mass deterioration is a sign of what's called catabolism, which means that your body's feeding off itself, and the only time that your body would ever choose to feed off itself is if it was starving to death or it was severely ill and needed a source of repair, right? So it would rob from Peter to pay Paul. You'd end up breaking down good tissue to repair damaged tissue. So myself personally, my point of view is I find ketogenic dieting or ketogenic lifestyle, which really, I apologize, it's not a lifestyle, it's a moment. It's not something that should be adhered to over a long period of time, but it can act as kind of like a reset, where it brings your blood glucose levels down so low that it helps to upregulate glucose receptors. So it makes you more sensitive to sugars and carbohydrates and things like that, so your body actually can use them a little better. But what happens too is there's a time frame in which your body needs to become carbohydrate adapted. If you stay in ketosis for too long, your body literally forgets how to break down carbohydrates, and then it needs to develop those enzymes again to be able to break down the carbohydrates, and in that time there could be significant storage of carbohydrates. So those are just some pointers for those of you that are considering or looking into something like a ketogenic diet. And if you have any further questions or anything like that, please feel free to post them on the group site or message me personally, and we can go over in a little bit more detail some of the not so much risk factors, but what we should be looking for when we do something like this, and whether or not it's actually advantageous for you before you go and jump into it and then find out that it may or may not be. Okay?